Juvelian sat at her desk, her head slumped forward. I'm exhausted. I think I have indigestion. How am I supposed to live like this? On edge every single day. I can't even sleep properly. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Forgive me for the late intrusion, my lady. There was a letter I couldn't deliver this afternoon, Marilyn said as she entered the room. Another letter? Juvelian wondered, accepting it. As she read, she recognized Rose's handwriting. She's too kind. I thought she'd be upset about my sudden departure, but instead, she's worried about me. Tucked behind the letter was a card. What's this? An invitation? Juvelian hesitated. I've been staying at home too much lately. Maybe I should go. A thought crossed her mind. This could be a good chance to hear what high society thinks about the crown prince. More importantly, I need to find out what he hates. The next day, at Rose's tea party, the hostess beamed as she made an announcement. Lady Floyan sent me a reply, she said cheerfully. Two ladies gasped in delight. Thank goodness she's well. I was worried when there was no news after the party. She also said she'd love to join our afternoon tea. Is anyone opposed? Of course not. I want to see her again, the ladies exclaimed. Rose turned to one noble woman who had remained quiet. Veronica, since we'll be meeting at your house next time, is that all right with you? Veronica Joanna Terrence kept her expression neutral as she sipped her tea. That woman is coming to my house? She internally flinched, but kept her tone composed. Yes, that will be fine, she replied. Thank you, Veronica. I'll let Lady Floyan know, Rose said excitedly. Later, Veronica visited Mikhail, her frustration evident. It's so rude. Only the host can invite guests, but Lady Arlo invited her friend without even consulting me, she fumed. Mikhail, focused on cleaning his sword, barely reacted. Lady Veronica, I'm exhausted. Can we talk about this later, he sighed. Veronica pursed her lips. That friend is Lady Floyan. Mikhail paused, his hand stilling. Lady Floyan is attending the tea party? His tone shifted. Yes, she muttered, still annoyed. He put down his sword and approached her, stroking her hair. Veronica flinched. Lady Veronica, he murmured, leaning in. Could you invite me as well? If Lady Floyan will be there, I can't help but worry about you. Her face flushed. He's worried about me. Thank you, Sir Mikhail, she stammered, heart pounding. Mikhail smirked. We finally meet again, Juvelian. The next day, Juvelian wandered through Arcade Boulevard, arms crossed. This tea party is semi-formal, Mclendy. I need to find a suitable dress. Her gaze swept over the storefronts. Everything seems so extravagant. I suppose this is the current trend. Should I just go along with it? If I were you, my lady, I wouldn't, a calm voice said beside her. Juvelian turned in surprise. Madame Frisia? Does she know me? She wondered, feeling unsure. Her guards in attendance exchanged glances. Someone is talking to Lady Juvelian nicely? Finally. Since you're quite slender, this trend won't suit your figure, Frisia continued. There's no need to wear something uncomfortable just because it's fashionable. An elegant look would be better for you. Juvelian considered her words. She's right. These styles wouldn't suit me anyway. Thank you for the advice, she said with a smile before walking away. Frisia watched her leave. I can see why my lord fell for her. She's even more beautiful up close. Meanwhile, Juvelian was lost in thought. And Liz, that was useful advice, but who is she? After some time, she finished shopping. I finally commissioned something in my preferred design. Time to go home. As she walked with her guards, a sudden shout caught her attention. You dare injure a noble and refuse to take responsibility? Apologize at once. Juvelian peeked through the gathered crowd. A nobleman sat on the ground, fuming. Baron Gordon? That insufferable man? I don't see why I should apologize, came a calm yet defiant voice. Juvelian's eyes widened. That voice. She focused on the cloaked figure and froze. Max? What is father's student doing here? The Baron sneered. A mere commoner dares talk back to a noble. You crude insect! Guards! Arrest this arrogant peasant! Max's gaze darkened. Should I kill him, but escaping while under arrest will be difficult. Wait, that's enough, Max turned sharply, eyes widening in surprise. Juvelian stepped forward. Standing between him and the guards, Baron Gordon trembled as he lay on the ground, supported by his guards. His eyes widened when he saw Juvelian. Wait, aren't you Duke Floyan's daughter, he stammered. Juvelian stepped forward, her tone composed. I greet you on behalf of Duke Floyan. I am Juvelian Eloy Floyan. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Baron Gordon quickly straightened and bowed deeply. I humbly offer my greetings, Lady Floyan. My name is... I know who you are, Baron Gordon, she interrupted. Please, raise your head. The Baron flinched. She knows me. If I play this right, I might have some fun today, he thought, smirking. I'm honored, my lady. To meet you here must be my lucky day, he said, laughing. Really? I don't feel very honored, Juvelian replied coldly. His smile stiffened. Did I offend you somehow? Juvelian watched him carefully. He looks down on those beneath him but grovels before me? In that case, I'll respond in kind. In the name of my father, the hero of the Empire, Legisadre Floyan, I command you, do not scare or persecute my man. Max's face turned red. Her man? As in? Husband? Juvelian leaned closer and whispered, Don't be surprised. I'm only doing this to help you. Oh, so she didn't mean it that way, Max realized, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. Juvelian turned back to the Baron. You just threatened the man my father assigned as my personal bodyguard. Max stiffened. Bodyguard? The guards exchanged shocked glances. Harm him? He's the one who made me fall and had the audacity to talk back, Baron Gordon argued, standing quickly. Juvelian had already figured out the situation. The Baron started this because he was annoyed. Max got more attention. Of course, Max didn't hold back either. Baron Gordon crossed his arms. Shouldn't he be the one compensating me for this insult, my lady? This is an outrage! So he's after money. How predictable, Max thought in disgust. Juvelian sighed. Could you let it go just this once, Baron Gordon? My guard is from the mountains and isn't well versed in social etiquette. Max's eyes widened. Naturally, it's also my fault for not guiding him properly, so I'll take responsibility, she added. The Baron smirked, greed flashing in his eyes. As expected of Lady Floyan, you're truly just and fair. So how much? Max clenched his jaw. He's practically asking me to cut him down. Juvelian suddenly changed the terms. Instead of money, let's settle this differently. You can talk down to me, just as my guard did to you. Max flinched. Baron Gordon paled. What? Go on, Juvelian pressed. Talk down to me. The Baron's face twisted in panic. I couldn't possibly do that. She's no fool. She won't let herself be taken advantage of, Max thought, watching with newfound respect. The Baron clenched his fists. Damn it. I was the one who caused the fuss. Please forgive me, he muttered. Juvelian tilted her head. Not me. You should apologize to my guard, don't you think? Baron Gordon stiffened before forcing a smile. Ha ha! My good fellow, it seems there was a misunderstanding. My apologies. I can't believe I'm bowing to a commoner, he seethed internally. Max met his glare with a cold stare, making the Baron flinch. Why does he look so intimidating? Until next time, Baron Gordon muttered before rushing away. Max watched him leave before smirking. Be grateful your life was spared because of her. Juvelian grabbed Max's arm. Are you okay? Were you surprised? That could have ended badly, she asked, concerned. Did she really think someone like that could harm me? Max thought, feeling strangely touched. For a moment, he recalled her words from Rose's party. You need to be more polite. If you don't respect me, others won't either. Juvelian tilted her head. Why aren't you saying anything? Max took her hand gently. Thank you for saving me, my lady. Juvelian blinked, taken aback. The ladies watching whispered among themselves. Why is he acting like this all of a sudden? She thought, flustered. Max smiled. It got messy. But I'm glad I saw you today. I had something to say. Juvelian tensed. Like what? Max held her gaze. Let's do it. The contract relationship. His face was slightly flushed, but his words were firm. You can't just say something that important in the middle of the plaza. Juvelian exclaimed, quickly covering Max's mouth with her hands. The surrounding ladies gasped, whispering among themselves. The lady and that man? What's their relationship? They're definitely not strangers. Flustered, Juvelian grabbed Max's hand. Follow me. She led him to her carriage, her face slightly flushed. As they rode toward the Floyan estate, she turned to him. Honestly, when you left without saying anything, I thought you were rejecting me. Do you mind if I ask why you changed your mind? Max remained silent, arms crossed. It wasn't that he had changed his mind. He simply hadn't answered because of her firm resolve never to marry a man she considered a sadistic tyrant. Because that so-called tyrant you hate is me, he thought. Juvelian watched him carefully. Is there something he can't tell me? She didn't realize that Max was keeping his true identity hidden. So what brought you to the arcade, she asked, eyeing the bag he was carrying. Judging by that, you weren't shopping. Max frowned. So what? Am I not allowed to go out without a reason? Juvelian blinked, taken aback. You could have just answered normally. Why is he so sensitive? I even helped him back there. Max remained quiet, his expression unreadable. His mind wandered to earlier that day when Madame Frisia had interrupted his sword training. My lord, I have some information, she had reported. Lady Florian will be attending a tea party in a few days, and Sir Mikhail will be there as well. Max had paused mid-swing. Why is he going? Well, she had mused, if someone meets their ex, it usually means they have lingering feelings. At that, Max had immediately grabbed his shirt. I'm going out. Oh my, but Lady Florian isn't at her residence, Frisia had added with a knowing smile. Ignoring her, Max had left to find Juvelian, tracking her all the way to the plaza. Mikhail, I need to stop him before he does anything at the tea party. Max thought, I can't just sit by and watch. I'll agree to the contract relationship. That way, that bastard won't even be able to approach her. Juvelian studied his serious expression. What is he thinking about? She cleared her throat. Then why don't we discuss the terms of the contract? Before she could continue, Max interrupted. First, I have a question. Why did you propose this contract relationship to me? Juvelian met his gaze calmly. Obviously, because even though you don't have wealth or a noble house, my father trusts you. She smiled. Max's expression stiffened. That's the only reason? Not because she likes me? Just because I'm master's student? Damn it. I was the only one taking this seriously again. And also, Juvelian added, out of all the men I know, you're the only one I feel comfortable enough to ask for something like this. Their eyes met. A faint blush crept onto both their faces. Ah, I see, Max muttered, chuckling. That's good enough for me. Juvelian glanced at him, deep in thought. He has a bit of a personality, but his face is definitely my type. Now then, we need to talk about payment. Name your price, she said. Max frowned. Payment? Juvelian observed him. As long as he doesn't glare, he actually looks approachable. I don't need payment, Max stated, turning away. I'm just repaying my debt for getting you injured last time. Juvelian's eyes sparkled. Ooh, who cares if he glares? He's actually kind. Excited, she grabbed his hands. Then in exchange, I'll offer you room and board whenever you need. And tell me if there's anything else. Max flinched at the sudden contact. Okay. Just let go of my hands first, he mumbled, face slightly red. Juvelian tightened her grip. What are you talking about? We're supposed to be lovers now. We can't be lazy about this. Max tensed. For this to work, we need to hold hands, lock arms, and call each other by name romantically, Juvelian declared seriously. Max swallowed hard. Sure, but I'm just not mentally ready for this. Oh, come to think of it, we haven't properly introduced ourselves, Juvelian said. My name is Juvelian. Max interrupted. I've known your name from the start. Juvelian froze. Wait, he's been calling me you all this time, even though he knew my name? Max avoided her gaze, looking slightly embarrassed. Well, your name is Max, right? I remember my father calling you that, Juvelian said. That's right, he admitted. She smiled. It's a nice name. Your parents must have given it to you so you'd grow up to be someone great. Max's ears turned slightly red. Juvelian continued holding his hand. I don't just like his looks. I like how he is overall. He straightened. So, shall we go write the contract? Max stiffened. Contract? Do we really need something like that? I already told you. I don't need payment. Juvelian sighed. What was father thinking, not teaching him something as basic as this? Listen carefully, she explained. All contractual relationships require a contract. Without a written record, I could just take advantage of you and throw you aside. Or worse, I could do something bad and blame it all on you. Max remained unfazed. But you wouldn't do something like that. Juvelian's breath caught. She had lived as a villainess for so long, carrying the weight of people's hatred. No one had ever believed her, even when she was on the verge of death. Yet, this person trusted her. Silently, she clenched the fabric of her dress, gazing at Max. I've never had anyone trust me like this before. Juvelian thought, her heart beating steadily. She quickly cleared her throat. Well, scams are usually done by people you trust, so don't be naive. Never trust someone just because you're close to them, and never rely on verbal agreements. Always get things in writing. Max remained expressionless. Is that so? Juvelian sighed. Just promise me you won't forget that. All right, he replied. Does he really understand? She wondered. Fine, I'll just have to teach him while we're in this contract relationship. First, she said, suddenly grabbing his collar. Their eyes met. Before we write the contract, we need to match our stories, she told him. What? Max tensed. Come closer. This is important, she said, her face slightly flushed. Max's thoughts spiraled. Isn't it too soon for something like this? His heart pounded as he shut his eyes, bracing himself. But then, my personal guard, Geraldine, will ask how we met, so we need to make sure our stories align, she continued, turning away. Max opened his eyes, lips slightly pouted. Ah, that's what she meant, he realized, adjusting himself. Juvelian glanced at him. Are you feeling okay? You look a little off. I'm fine, he muttered, rubbing his forehead. So, what's your plan? At the Floyan estate. As the carriage arrived, guards stood at attention. Geraldine, Juvelian's personal knight, stepped forward. My lady, could you explain what's going on? He asked, his tone firm. Juvelian smiled. I apologize for the late introduction. This is my lover. The guards stiffened in shock. Geraldine frowned. Forgive me, but we've been guarding you closely. We've never even seen this man before. Did you choose him just for his looks again? Juvelian chuckled. That's only natural. I met him at Count Meisen's party. A count's party? Geraldine's gaze shifted to Max, scrutinizing him. Don't tell me he's a noble. Max's clothes suggested a mercenary, but there was an undeniable elegance to him. He's not a noble, Juvelian clarified. He was one of the hired mercenaries at the event. The guards exchanged shocked glances. A mercenary? Geraldine repeated, clearly skeptical. And yet he somehow got close to you? Max frowned. A mere knight dares to look at me like that? It was irritating, but he kept his composure. She has a plan, after all. His mind drifted back to their conversation in the carriage. No way, Max had said, rejecting her idea. Isn't it usually the other way around? I should be the one saving you. That wouldn't make sense, Juvelian countered. I have knights with me at all times. If you saved me, no one would believe it. Just follow my lead, and you'll get used to it. If Max had sighed, fine. Back in the present, Juvelian kept her voice steady. I saved him, she told Geraldine. According to her fabricated story, Max had been in danger, surrounded by enemies. My lady, have you seen Sir Mikhail anywhere? She had supposedly asked at the time. At her words, the enemies had fled in fear. Then he told me I was his sworn savior and that he wanted to repay me. Juvelian finished. The guards remained unconvinced. Then again, she did save me just now, Max added, playing along. She's twisting things however she wants, Max thought, suppressing his frustration. I didn't hate him back then either, Juvelian continued. Then, I met him again at Count Arlo's party, and when I saw him at the Arcade Boulevard, I thought, he's the one. She linked arms with Max and turned toward the mansion. Geraldine stared after them, his thoughts in turmoil. So, long story short, she liked his face, right? Juvelian, you're doing it again. Juvelian suddenly stopped and turned back. Wait, are you looking down on my love just because he's a commoner? Geraldine flinched. No, that's not. What do you mean it's not? She pressed. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the way you were glaring at him? Geraldine stiffened, but said nothing. Just look behind you. Geraldine hesitated, then turned. Max had been glaring at them the entire time. His aura was unsettling. Something about him felt familiar. Who in the world is he? Geraldine wondered. Juvelian, oblivious to the tension, took Max's arm again. Oh my, you're trembling. Are you okay? She asked. Max exhaled slowly. I'm fine. There's no need to be so nervous. I'll protect you, no matter what, she said with a smile, holding the door open for him. Max scoffed inwardly. What could you even protect me from? But as she confidently led him inside, he felt an unfamiliar warmth. Still, it doesn't feel bad. Ha! Inside the estate. As they entered the sitting room, the sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the hall. Duke Legis had dropped his teacup. His eyes widened in shock as he hurried down the stairs. Juvelian? He said, his gaze locked onto his daughter, who was holding Max's hand. Juvelian met her father's stunned expression with a calm smile. Father, I'd like to formally introduce you, she said. This is the man I love. Max tensed, his face betraying a faint flush. Juvelian swallowed hard, gripping Max's arm as they faced her father. I figured I might as well tell him now, but his reaction is worse than I expected, she thought, watching Legis tremble. Beads of sweat ran down Max's forehead. Say hello, Max. You know my father, don't you? Juvelian said, sending a chill down Legis's spine. Juvelian, what is going on here? Legis demanded, his sharp gaze fixed on her. He had never cared much about her actions before, so seeing him this furious was unexpected. Then again, it made sense. She wasn't marrying the man he had chosen for her. Worse, she had chosen his precious student instead. It's exactly as I said, Father. We've decided to have a formal relationship, she replied, clutching Max's arm and smiling. Max's face flushed at her touch, but Juvelian's mind remained tense. So things won't go as you planned, she thought, glancing at her father's stunned expression. Legis stood frozen. How did it come to this? I should have been more careful. That punk shouldn't even be breathing the same air as my daughter. Inside the drawing room, Max assisted Juvelian into her seat. Thank you, she said softly, gazing at him with warmth. A faint blush dusted her cheeks. Legis watched them closely, his expression dark. That little monster! So this is how you tricked my daughter! His eyes narrowed at Max. I know exactly what you're planning. Memories of the battlefield flooded Legis's mind. Max ruthlessly beating a man, his grip unrelenting. Stop that right now! Legis had ordered back then. Max had released his hold, letting the man's limp body fall to the ground. He's not our comrade anymore, Max had said coldly. He's nothing more than a traitor. If we use his body as an example, it'll serve as a lesson to the others. Legis clenched his jaw, returning to the present. That's the kind of person he is. Juvelian was just a tool, one Max could use to provoke him and push forward his rebellion. Legis exhaled, lifting his teacup. How did you two meet? Juvelian's fingers tensed. Here we go. Geraldine and the Knights had believed her lie, but that wouldn't work on her father. I'll have to mix in some truth to make it believable. He came looking for you when you weren't home, she began. I don't know if it was because he had nowhere else to go, but he showed up at my place. It was late, so I let him stay in my room. Legis's grip on his teacup tightened as he shot a sharp look at Max, who smirked slightly. You and Max? Slept together? Legis's mind reeled. Together? He asked, his voice rigid. But nothing happened, Juvelian quickly added with a soft smile. Max gave a short nod in agreement. Of course nothing should have happened. Legis's glare hardened. Max, if you so much as touched Juvelian, I won't let you leave this place alive. You should have told Derek. He would have arranged a room for you, Legis said, voice laced with suspicion. It was too late to wake him, Juvelian explained smoothly. And with the Knights passing by, I couldn't say anything. Besides, I knew your student wouldn't harm me. Legis clenched his fists beneath the table. That punk is the most dangerous person there is! He had tried countless times to change Max's violent nature, but it had been futile. Once he decides she served her purpose, he's more than capable of hurting her. She has no idea she's in danger. Legis ran a tired hand through his hair. This is my fault. I never should have taken him in as my student. Juvelian took a deep breath. Father, I know I've made foolish decisions before, she admitted, but this is different. I've only ever had one-sided feelings. To love someone and have them love me back feels like a miracle. Her voice softened. You may not trust me because of how I've lived until now, but I swear I won't bring shame to your name. Please, give us your blessing. Legis's eyes widened. Shame to my name? Nonsense. Juvelian was his beloved daughter. Nothing she did could ever disgrace him. But not him. Never him. Legis's hands tightened into fists. Break up, he said. Juvelian and Max both stiffened, eyes widening in shock. Juvelian trembled slightly. In the end, he still intends to marry me to the Crown Prince. A marriage of convenience. With that psycho prince. Before she could speak, Max's voice cut through the silence. I refuse. Juvelian's breath hitched. Legis's stunned gaze snapped toward him. Max folded his arms, staring at Legis. You gave me a lecture a while back. Do you remember that? Legis remained silent, but his mind recalled the words he had once spoken to Max. Max, the blade exists to protect those precious to you. People grow stronger because they have someone they want to protect. One day, you'll find someone like that. Max placed a hand on Juvelian's shoulder. I think I've found my weakness. She's the precious thing I want to protect. Juvelian blinked in shock. Why is he acting like this so soon? Max turned back to Legis. Not even you can separate us. Legis clenched his fists. Enough. Stop lying through your teeth. First, he called her a rat, and now she's precious? He thought bitterly. I don't care what you say, Max continued. If you keep trying to come between us, I won't just sit back. You being my teacher will come second. Fine. Then I won't think of you as my student anymore, Legis shot back, glaring. Juvelian was stunned. Did they just cut ties? Max grabbed Juvelian's hand. Let's go. Stop right there! Legis barked, gripping Max's shoulder. Max turned, eyes blazing. Don't tell me what to do, Juvelian quickly intervened. Father, please, I'll fix this. Legis hesitated, then let them leave. Juvelian caught up to Max. Wait, Max, what you did to my father went too far. Max frowned. But I helped you. Juvelian's expression was firm. Forcing something on someone isn't help, it's just doing what you want. Max hesitated. So, you don't want my help anymore? She took his hand gently. I do, but not like this. Max sighed. Then what do you want me to do? Apologize. Max looked tense. No way in hell. But as he saw her pitiful expression, he exhaled. Fine. From inside, Legis was shocked. He gave in? To back in the dining room. Juvelian spoke first. Father, Max has something to say. Max bowed. I apologize for my insolence, Master. Legis narrowed his eyes. He said he'd never apologized days ago. This is an act. You're no student of mine, he said coldly. Max stiffened but remained silent. Juvelian bit her lip. They'll never make up at this rate. Without warning, she collapsed to her knees. Juvelian! Max and Legis exclaimed. Tears welled in her eyes. Father, I'm sorry. This is all my fault. Juvelian knelt before her father, Legis, and Max, determined to beg for forgiveness while standing her ground about dating Max. Though the floor was uncomfortable, she resolved not to rise until her conversation with her father was complete. Seeing her kneeling, Max immediately grew agitated, urging her to get up, his voice filled with concern. Juvelian was surprised by his reaction. Why was he so flustered? Even Legis, who had been furious just moments ago, suddenly pushed Max aside and attempted to help her up himself, insisting that the floor was too cold for her. Juvelian was caught off guard by how quickly the two seemed to be on the same page about getting her to stand, but she knew it was too early to relax. Her father had not yet fully forgiven Max, and she needed to ensure their relationship had a chance. She pressed forward, explaining that Max's earlier rudeness was due to his strong feelings for her, and that she would make sure he learned proper manners. To her surprise, Legis quickly agreed to forgive Max. Juvelian was momentarily suspicious. Was it really that easy? However, both Max and her father anxiously pleaded for her to get up, and she finally relented. Once they were seated again, the atmosphere shifted. Legis clarified that while he had forgiven Max, he was not granting his approval for their relationship. Juvelian, expecting this, calmly asked for him to at least wait before making a final decision. Though Legis outwardly agreed, inwardly, he had no intention of accepting their relationship. He was convinced that Max was dangerous and believed that by allowing things to continue, Juvelian would eventually see Max's true nature and end things herself. That night, in Juvelian's room, she was filled with excitement. She had actually managed to get her cold-hearted father to agree, at least temporarily, to her relationship with Max. As she and Max sat together for tea, she eagerly shifted the conversation to the details of their contract. She asked if there was anything he wanted from her, but Max remained silent, sipping his tea. His refined mannerisms surprised her. The way he held the cup and drank was so elegant that for a brief moment, she wondered if he was secretly a noble who had run away from home. However, his next comment shattered that thought. He openly questioned why she drank tea in the first place. Juvelian couldn't help but laugh internally. The tea was the highest quality, personally chosen by her father, and yet Max dismissed it so casually. There was no way he was a noble. After a moment of thought, Max wrote down his conditions for the contract and slid the paper to Juvelian. When she read it, she was completely taken aback. His first condition that Juvelian would not date any other man during the contract period. She was baffled. Wasn't the whole point of this contract to avoid other men? Why did he feel the need to specify that? She started to question him about it, but Max quickly redirected her attention to another part of the contract, pointing at how she had written his name. Juvelian was startled and realized that she had still not fully adjusted to calling him by his first name. Deciding to make things fair, she added her own condition. He would have to call her by her name no matter what. Max's face flushed slightly before he reluctantly agreed. Determined to refine the contract, Juvelian spent hours carefully rewriting it, making the wording more formal and ensuring that both of their conditions were properly structured. By the time she was done, she was exhausted. She handed the revised contract to Max, asking him to read it slowly and let her know if there was anything he wanted to change. However, instead of reading it, Max barely glanced at the document before bluntly rejecting it. Before Juvelian could react, he abruptly ripped the papers apart. Juvelian was completely stunned. He tore it up? After all the effort she had put into writing it? If there was something he didn't like, couldn't he have just said so? As she sat in disbelief, frustration began to build within her. Looking back, she realized that Max had never really considered her feelings. He had been reckless and inconsiderate, leaving without a word when she had taken care of him, getting angry at her for unclear reasons, and now dismissing all the effort she had put into their contract. If this was how things were going to be from the start, then she already had her answer. Her resolve hardened. She wasn't going to let anyone look down on her anymore. With a firm voice, she declared that their contract was over. Max looked completely stunned, unable to believe what he had just heard. Max's eyes widened in disbelief as Juvelian firmly declared their contract over. "No, we can't do that now," he protested, his tone sharp with urgency. "We even went through all that trouble to get permission. Didn't you say you hated the prince? I thought you didn't want to marry him. You said he was trash. If you break this contract, you'll have no choice but to marry him." Juvelian's expression remained calm. "I don't have a choice. It's already obvious that we won't suit each other. If we continue like this, we'll only exhaust each other," she explained, her voice unwavering. Max clenched his fists. "You're being too rash." "Am I?" Juvelian countered coolly. "You ripping up the contract means you have no intention of cooperating. I can't sign a contract with someone like that." Max opened his mouth to object, but he froze. His mind flashed back to his past habits, ripping up documents in frustration whenever his subordinates presented something he disliked. It was second nature to him, something no one had ever complained about before. But now, for the first time, someone was calling him out on it. "Can't she just rewrite it?" he thought, feeling tense. Juvelian's gaze was firm. "Do you like it when someone ignores your opinion?" she asked, her voice quieter, almost reflective. For a brief moment, she recalled how she used to plead for Mikhail's attention, only to be ignored time and time again. The memory of that rejection stung, and she didn't want to feel that way again. "When someone dismisses my words, it crushes my self-esteem. It ruins my entire day." Max felt something tighten in his chest at her words. His face flushed slightly as he hesitated. "So, you're saying you didn't like what I did?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically soft. Juvelian nodded. "Yes, I honestly didn't." Max scowled, folding his arms. "Why do I have to be careful around her? I'm the one helping her," he thought irritably. But Juvelian's next words made his breath hitch. "If helping me is such a burden, then maybe it's better if we just end this," she said calmly. Max tensed. Something inside him screamed that if he kept being stubborn, he would never see Juvelian again. "Humph, you think I'm scared of that?" He scoffed internally, glancing away. But when he looked back at Juvelian, she was frowning, her expression laced with sadness. His confidence wavered. "I was wrong," he said at last, bowing his head slightly in apology. Juvelian blinked in surprise, but didn't argue. That night, she rewrote the contract from scratch, meticulously ensuring every detail was properly structured. By the time she was done, dawn was beginning to break. She presented the new contract to Max, who accepted it without protest. "Do I sign here?" he asked, holding the pen obediently. "Yes," Juvelian replied, watching him carefully. As Max signed, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. What's gotten into him?" she wondered. Seeing him apologize so easily and follow instructions without complaint felt strange. After finishing, Max handed the signed contract back to her, leaning back against the chair with a conflicted look. Juvelian, on the other hand, was relieved. "I finally did it," she thought. Her face subtly flushed with accomplishment. Max, however, felt an entirely different emotion settle in his chest. "Why do I feel like I just got manipulated?" Juvelian, oblivious to his thoughts, smiled brightly. "Then we can announce that we're lovers, right?" she said excitedly. "There's going to be a tea party at Count Terrence's house. Let's go together." Max straightened slightly, his chin resting on his entwined fingers. "Do you even know who's attending that party?" he asked. "My friend Lady Arlo and her friends." Juvelian answered cheerfully. Max's expression darkened slightly. So she really doesn't know that Mikhail will be there. He recalled the information he had received earlier. Madame Frisia had reported that Veronica had secretly invited Mikhail to the tea party without informing the other ladies. A sharp glint flickered in Max's eyes. I'm going to that party, no matter what. He smirked inwardly. Mikhail, the sight of you being completely crushed will be my gift to Juvelian. Juvelian tilted her head slightly. You look really fired up, she noted, feeling a little unsure, but she dismissed it. Well, I'm sure it'll be fine. The next day, Count Terrence's residence. The tea party had begun, and the ladies were already engaged in conversation when an unexpected guest arrived. What? Lady Rose exclaimed, her eyes widening in shock. There seems to be an uninvited guest. She turned to Veronica, her tone demanding. What's going on, Veronica? Veronica, dressed impeccably, smiled demurely. I simply followed the rules of our group. The host of the party can invite whoever she wishes, after all. But I also said we needed everyone's agreement first, Rose snapped. Mikhail, standing beside Veronica in matching outfits, let out a scoff. Lady Rose, aren't you the one who always decides things on your own? Rose flinched. What do you mean? I definitely... The way you're so strict with others, but lenient with yourself, doesn't look so good to me, Mikhail said coolly, placing a hand lightly on Veronica's shoulder. She blushed, looking at him with admiration. The other ladies murmured among themselves. Sir Mikhail has a point. Lady Arlo only got permission after she had already invited Lady Floyan, didn't she? One lady pointed out. Rose's expression stiffened. Now that it's come to this, it's not like it's a big deal if two guests are exceptions to the rule, right? Another lady added. Mikhail smirked as the ladies around him blushed. Thank you, my ladies, he said smoothly. Rose felt anger boiling inside her. I can't believe this. Lady Floyan definitely won't be comfortable when she finds out Sir Mikhail is here, but everyone is acting so cheerful, like they don't care. Traitors! Just then, the doors opened. The room fell silent. Juvelian stepped in gracefully, her voice soft yet commanding. Oh my, I thought I arrived on time, but it seems you're all already here. All eyes turned to her. She looked breathtaking, dressed elegantly, her aura refined yet effortlessly radiant. But what truly shocked them all was the sight of Max beside her, holding her hand. Their outfits matched perfectly, signaling something undeniable. Mikhail's body stiffened, his jaw clenched as his gaze locked onto Juvelian, his mind racing. Irk, Juvelian! Who the hell is that man holding your hand? The air in the tea room grew thick with curiosity as Rose, still flushed, cautiously spoke up. Lady Floyan, if you don't mind my asking, who might that man be? She asked, her eyes, and those of the other ladies, fixed on Max. Their faces tinged pink as they took in his striking features. Juvelian remained composed, her tone light yet firm. Ah, this is my lover, Max. A ripple of shock spread through the group. The lady really does have a lover? Some thought, their hearts pounding. I thought it was just a rumor. And he's so good-looking. Another noted, her face red from the sheer impact of Max's presence. You two look so good together. They all cooed, clearly smitten. Max smirked, reveling in the attention, but more interested in one particular reaction. Mikhail's. He turned to Juvelian, locking eyes with her. Say it again, louder, so Mikhail can hear you, he urged internally. Juvelian, reading his intent, held back a smirk of her own. His acting isn't bad at all. I should praise him once we're done. Just then, Rose attempted to regain control of the gathering. It's an honor to meet Lady Floyan's lover, she began. Actually, this party... But she was cut off as all eyes drifted toward Mikhail. His piercing glare sent shivers down the ladies' spines. Juvelian stiffened. Mikhail? What is he doing here? Her gaze flickered toward Victoria standing at his side, and a sense of unease settled in. Max, however, was on full alert. His golden eyes locked onto Mikhail with a dangerous glint. We finally meet, Mikhail. You little punk, he thought, his expression sharpening. Mikhail, despite himself, flinched. His body stiffened under Max's gaze. He dares look down at me? The tension in the air was palpable. It's a battle between the current lover and the ex, the ladies thought excitedly, their faces flushed as they anticipated the drama unfolding before them. Mikhail gritted his teeth, struggling to suppress his emotions. So this is how you want to play, Juvelian? You dare throw me aside for someone else? But then he forced himself to take a deep breath, calming his thoughts. No, this is Juvelian. She's obviously doing this for attention. Since she only introduced him as Max, he's probably from some low-class family. Just a random man she picked to provoke me. His eyes darkened with a silent promise. Today's the day I make you run out of patience. Forcing a charming smile, he stepped forward, extending his hand. It's been far too long, Juvelian, he said, his voice warm and inviting. Max's jaw clenched. Arr! I'll rip his guts out! He balled his fists, struggling to restrain himself. Juvelian, meanwhile, stared at Mikhail with mild confusion. What's with him? We shouldn't be that happy to see each other. A memory flashed in her mind of how she used to hang on to his every word, willing to follow him to the ends of the earth. But now, she found it almost amusing how little she cared. With a light laugh, she replied, Yeah, sure, long time no see. Mikhail flinched, momentarily thrown off. Max, watching from the side, smirked in satisfaction. Atta girl. Ignoring Mikhail completely, Juvelian turned to Max. Thank you for being here, Max. I'll see you soon. She leaned in slightly, her cheeks tinged pink. Max, but he didn't answer. Instead, he pulled her closer, his arm resting firmly around her shoulder as his gaze burned into Mikhail. Take a good look, Mikhail Albert Hessen, because Juvelian has me by her side now. Mikhail's eye twitched. Juvelian, meanwhile, noticed Max's tense posture. Is he nervous? He doesn't look so good. The surrounding ladies nearly swooned. Oh my, so gentle, so charming. They whispered excitedly. Ahem. Rose cleared her throat, gathering their attention. I'd like to make a suggestion. Everyone turned to her. We have an unexpected guest at today's tea tasting, but I don't think having one is a big issue. What does everyone else think? Juvelian flinched. Eh? You mean Max? I concur. Me too. Agreed. The other ladies nodded, their expressions unreadable as they subtly observed the situation. Max raised a brow. He couldn't help but notice how Lady Rose had taken Juvelian's side. She's her number one ally. Juvelian, however, felt uneasy. No, Max might be acting fine now, but he's a ticking time bomb. Before she could object, Mikhail's voice cut in sharply. I disagree. The air turned cold. Juvelian narrowed her eyes. Wait a minute. I might be an unexpected guest, but he shouldn't be the one saying that. That's completely different, Rose countered. We already got everyone's agreement in Lady Floyan's case. I, too, disagree, Victoria chimed in, her voice laced with feigned concern. That kind of favoritism will only make things difficult for Lady Floyan. Please be careful, Lady Rose. Juvelian sighed. So that's Victoria, Count Terrence's daughter and today's host. Victoria's sharp eyes flickered toward Juvelian. Since he is still Lady Floyan's guest, and we have many empty rooms, I shall prepare a place for him to wait. Juvelian offered a small smile. Thank you, Lady Terrence. I was so close to having to watch over Max this entire time, but thanks to her, I'm safe. Her eyes flickered with newfound curiosity as she studied Victoria. Something tells me we might get along. But then Victoria turned away, her expression souring into a scowl. Everyone's uncomfortable around Sir Mikhail, and it's all that woman's fault, she thought bitterly, glaring at Juvelian. Meanwhile, at the tea party, the guests sat in the garden, enjoying the refreshments. Mikhail? Veronica cooed, her voice soft. She reached over, gently wiping something from his lips. The ladies gasped. Juvelian, holding her teacup, observed the scene quietly. Mikhail smirked. That's more like it. She can't take her eyes off me. There's no way she's forgotten me this easily. No matter what you do, Juvelian, you're still in the palm of my hand. His confidence surged as he caught Juvelian's expression faltering. But she wasn't looking at him out of longing. She was reminiscing. She's just like I was, completely enamored. And just like back then, he's merely playing a role. He's destined to marry the princess, which means her ending will be a tragedy. Juvelian sipped her tea, her mind clear. I just hope you don't become a villainess, Victoria. Meanwhile, in the guest room, Max sat obediently waiting. Juvelian's words echoed in his mind. Be a good boy and wait here without causing any trouble, okay? He had agreed without complaint. But as time passed, he grew restless. I shouldn't be here. There's no telling what that bastard Mikhail is up to. His mind flashed back to Mikhail's smug greeting toward Juvelian. Smiling? In that situation? What a bastard. He tapped his fingers against the table, then finally stood. Sorry, Juvelian, he thought, adjusting his tie. I actually came here to cause trouble, just like you were worried about. A smirk curled on his lips as he stepped out. Time to get started. At the tea party, Mikhail continued his act, showering Veronica with attention. Lady Veronica, have a bite of this, he said, offering her a piece of cake. Flushed, she accepted it, eating softly. Why don't we go on a picnic sometime? He added smoothly. Veronica smiled, clearly pleased. I'd love to. When shall we go? She asked eagerly. Mikhail didn't actually care when. His goal was for Juvelian to overhear. In the past, she couldn't stand seeing him with other women. Now that he had openly suggested dating Veronica, he expected her to react. However, to his surprise, Juvelian wasn't even looking at him. Instead, she was laughing and chatting with the other ladies, brightening the mood of the entire gathering. Huh? That's odd. Juvelian, why aren't you looking at me? Mikhail thought, perplexed. Rose then spoke up. Since we're all here, I'd like to make a suggestion, she said, drawing everyone's attention. I was thinking we could invite Lady Floyan to be the newest member of our tea tasting event. What does everyone think? Juvelian looked startled. A member of the tasting event? She thought. I don't. Thank you, but there's no need to go that far, she stammered. What do you mean? I think you're more than qualified, Rose insisted. Mikhail continued watching Juvelian, his expression darkening. Why isn't it me? Why are you smiling at them instead? I'd love for Lady Floyan to join us, another lady chimed in. Juvelian hesitated. It would be nice to grow closer to women my age, but what if they change their minds later? I should decline politely. I'm against it, Victoria interjected. Our tea tasting group has a sign-up requirement. We should follow the proper procedure. You're right, one of the other ladies agreed. Then I have no choice but to decline, Juvelian said, trying to calm the situation. But before she could finish her thoughts, her eyes widened in shock. Outside the window, high up in a tree, Max was sitting there, watching her. What? What is he doing here? Juvelian thought, flinching. He's supposed to be in another room. What if someone sees him? Trying to keep her composure, she quickly averted her gaze, hoping no one else had noticed. But Mikhail had been watching her closely and followed her line of sight. His eyes landed on Max, who was perched on the tree, calmly observing them. Juvelian tried to return to the conversation, but her unease was obvious. I need to get him back inside before someone sees him, she thought, glancing at Max again. Mikhail clenched his teeth. Is she staring at him? While I'm right here? He turned his glare to Max, who met his gaze with a smirk before flashing an even more smug expression. That arrogant, Mikhail thought furiously. He abruptly stood up from his seat. Please excuse me while I get some fresh air, he said, forcing a smile. I'll come with you, Victoria said, reaching for his hand, but he quickly pulled away. I can go alone, he replied, leaving her stunned. Cocky bastard. I'll make you regret this, Mikhail seethed as he left the room. Meanwhile, Juvelian remained lost in thought, imagining the worst, her father forcing her to marry the crown prince while abandoning Max. Max may be reckless, but anything is better than that. She stole another glance outside, only to freeze in shock. Max was gone. Where did he go? She thought, panicking. Unaware of the growing tension outside, the ladies cheerfully finalized their decision. Lady Floyan will be the next host for our tea party. I can't wait to see what special tea you'll bring. Juvelian snapped out of her thoughts. What tea? I'm looking forward to it too, Rose added enthusiastically. Looking forward to what? Juvelian asked, tense. A tea party with a special tea. That's the requirement for signing up. Thank you for accepting, Lady Floyan. Juvelian paled. What? Is this what happened while I was distracted by Max? Outside, Mikhail walked through the garden, gripping a sword. Show yourself, he demanded. Sir, please wait. Weapons aren't allowed, the butler pleaded. Mikhail ignored him. You think you can get away with that smirk? A voice called out. I'm right here. Mikhail turned to see Max leaning against a tree, waiting. Took you long enough? Max said, smirking. Mikhail's glare sharpened. This bastard.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more manhwa content. See you in the next one.